My mother-in-law banned me from the family reunion cruise, so I watched her face as the captain introduced me as his very important person guest. 3 months earlier, Diane had called a family meeting to plan the cruise. Everyone was invited, except me. "We need quality time as a blood family," she announced, looking directly at me. "Never mind that I've been married to her son Trevor for 8 years. Never mind that I'd spent every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner trying to earn her approval. The cruise was scheduled for Trevor's 35th birthday. His siblings would be there with their spouses. His father would be there. Even his aunt from Colorado, who he'd seen twice in his life, was invited. But not me, the one who'd nursed him through pneumonia, who'd supported him when he lost his job, who'd organized his mother's 60th birthday party down to the last detail. "It's just 1 week," Trevor said when I protested. "She'll come around eventually." She never came around. Not after I cooked her favorite meals. Not after I sent her flowers on Mother's Day. Not after I paid for her car repairs when money was tight. In her eyes, I would always be the outsider who'd stolen her precious son. The morning they left for Miami, I kissed Trevor goodbye at the door. He looked guilty, but not guilty enough to fight his mother. "I'll bring you back something nice," he promised. I watched their car disappear down the street, then went inside and opened my laptop. You see, I'm a maritime lawyer. I'd spent the last 2 months quietly working on a massive case involving cruise line liability. The captain of their specific ship, Captain Rodriguez, had been my primary contact. We'd exchanged hundreds of emails, spent hours on video calls. He knew my work, my dedication, my attention to detail. Last week, he'd invited me to join the cruise as his personal guest, all expenses paid, to finalize some documents. I'd accepted, then I'd arranged to board at a different port. Now, standing in my evening gown in the ship's grand dining hall, I watched the captain's welcome speech. Diane sat front and center, preening in her designer dress, already complaining loudly about the wine selection. Trevor looked miserable beside her. "Before we begin dinner," Captain Rodriguez announced, "I'd like to recognize a special guest who's made this voyage possible through her brilliant legal work." He gestured toward me. "Please welcome Elena Martinez, our very important person guest and legal consultant." The spotlight found me. Trevor's jaw dropped. His father started laughing. Diane's face went from confusion to recognition to absolute fury in 3 seconds flat. "Elena has full access to all ship amenities, including the captain's private dining room," Rodriguez continued. "I trust you'll all make her feel welcome." I smiled and waved. Diane's hand trembled on her wine glass. What she didn't know was that Captain Rodriguez had also offered me the owner's suite, the one Diane had demanded and been denied, the one with the balcony overlooking the ocean and the private hot tub. Trevor stood up, excused himself from the table, and walked straight toward me. I could see his mother hissing at his father, gesturing frantically. The entire family was staring. "How long have you known?" Trevor asked quietly when he reached me. "About the same time your mother uninvited me." His face shifted. Something clicked. "You could have told me. You could have fought for me." Before he could respond, a crew member approached with a message. Captain Rodriguez needed to see me immediately in his private quarters. Something urgent about the case. Trevor watched me leave, his mother's voice rising behind us, demanding to know what was happening. I followed the crew member down the corridor, my heart pounding. When we reached the captain's suite, he was standing with 2 other men in expensive suits. They weren't crew. "Elena," Rodriguez said, his expression grave. "These gentlemen are from corporate. They've just informed me that someone on this ship has filed a complaint about your presence here. They're demanding an investigation." He paused. "And they're threatening to have you removed at the next port." The taller man stepped forward. "Ms. Martinez, I'm Richard Lawson from Corporate Legal. We've received a formal complaint alleging you gained access to this cruise through fraudulent means." He adjusted his glasses. "The complainant claims you're here to harass a family member and that your invitation was obtained under false pretenses." I felt my stomach drop. Diane. Of course it was Diane. "That's absurd," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Captain Rodriguez invited me as his legal consultant. I've been working on the Henderson liability case for 3 months. Everything is documented." "We're aware of your work," the second man said. His nameplate read, "Thomas Chen, Senior VP." However, The complainant has provided evidence that you have a personal relationship with passengers on this ship. They're suggesting your presence creates a conflict of interest. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. Elena, I had no idea about your family connection when I extended the invitation. Because it's irrelevant, I said firmly. My work stands on its own merit. The fact that my husband happens to be on this cruise is coincidental. Is it, though? Lawson pulled out a tablet. We've reviewed the passenger manifest. Trevor Martinez booked this cruise 4 months ago. You began working on the Henderson case 3 months ago. The timing raises questions. My mind raced. This was exactly the kind of legal maneuvering Diane would orchestrate. She must have contacted a lawyer the moment she recognized me in the dining hall. I can provide timestamps for every email, every document, every phone call, I said. My work began before I knew anything about this cruise. In fact, I didn't know my husband had booked it until 6 weeks ago, well after I'd already been consulting with Captain Rodriguez. Can you prove that? Chen asked. I can prove when I learned about the cruise. I received a text from Trevor on May 3rd telling me about it. My first email to Captain Rodriguez was April 8th. I have phone records, email chains, everything. Rodriguez straightened and said, Gentlemen, I can vouch for Ms. Martinez's professionalism. She's been instrumental in helping us navigate the Henderson case. Without her expertise, we'd be facing millions in liability. That may be true, Lawson said, but perception matters. If this goes public, if the complainant decides to make noise, it could damage the company's reputation. A lawyer on a cruise with her estranged family, questions about how she obtained access to the ship. I'm not estranged from anyone, I interrupted. My mother-in-law has personal issues with me. That's not my problem. Actually, Chen said slowly, it becomes our problem when it threatens our business relationships. The complainant is threatening to contact media outlets, to suggest that our security protocols are compromised, to question how we vet our consultants. I stared at him. She's bluffing. Maybe, but can we risk it? The room fell silent. I could feel everything I'd built slipping away. Not just this cruise, but my professional reputation. If they removed me, if this became a story, every future client would question whether I could be trusted. There's another issue, Lawson said quietly. The complainant has requested that we review your consulting contract, specifically the clause about accommodations. My blood ran cold. The owner's suite. She claims you specifically requested the suite she had applied for, Chen continued. She's suggesting you used your position to prioritize your own comfort over paying guests. That's a lie, Rodriguez said sharply. I offered Elena the suite because it has a proper workspace. She needs privacy to review confidential documents. Documents that will be reviewed in your quarters anyway, Lawson pointed out. The suite is a perk, not a necessity, and it looks bad. Very bad. I wanted to scream. Every careful step I'd taken, every professional boundary I'd maintained, and Diane had found a way to weaponize it against me. What do you want? I asked directly. Chen and Lawson exchanged glances. We want this to go away quietly, Chen said. No media, no drama, no questions about impropriety. So you want me to leave? We want you to consider whether staying is worth the potential fallout, Lawson said carefully. Not just for you, but for Captain Rodriguez, for this ship, for future business relationships. It was a threat wrapped in concern. Leave voluntarily, or we'll make sure everyone knows you were removed. I need to think about this, I said. You have until morning, Chen said. We dock in Cozumel at 8 a.m. If you decide to disembark there, we'll arrange transportation back to Miami. No questions asked, no formal record of any complaint. And if I stay? Then we proceed with a full investigation, interviews, documentation reviews, the whole process. It could take weeks, and during that time, your reputation will be under scrutiny. They were giving me an out, a humiliating, infuriating out that let Diane win. After they left, Rodriguez poured us both a drink. I'm sorry, Elena. I had no idea this would blow up like this. It's not your fault. My mother-in-law has been trying to get rid of me for 8 years. This is just her latest tactic. What are you going to do? I sipped the whiskey, feeling it burn. I don't know yet. For what it's worth, your work on the Henderson case has been exceptional. I'll make sure that's documented regardless of what happens here. Thanks. I left his quarters and walked the deck, needing air. The ocean stretched endlessly in all directions. I thought I was so clever, orchestrating this perfect revenge, showing up where I wasn't wanted, proving I belonged. But Diane had turned it around on me instantly. She'd found the weak point and exploited it with ruthless efficiency. My phone buzzed. Trevor. We need to talk. I found him at the stern, away from the crowds. He looked exhausted. Mom told me what she did, he said immediately, filing that complaint. I didn't know she was going to do that. Would you have stopped her if you did? He flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? You didn't stop her from banning me from this cruise. You didn't defend me when she called that family meeting. You've never stopped her from treating me like I'm not good enough for you. Elena, I'm being asked to leave the ship, Trevor. Your mother has successfully convinced corporate that my presence here is somehow fraudulent, that I manipulated my way onto this cruise just to harass your family. His face went pale. She said what? She's threatening to go to the media to make this into a story about improper business relationships and questionable ethics. Either I leave voluntarily in the morning, or they launch a full investigation that could destroy my career. Jesus. He ran his hands through his hair. I'll talk to her. I'll make her drop the complaint. Will you? Because you've had 8 years to stand up to her, and you've chosen her over me every single time. That's not true. Name one time you defended me when she criticized my cooking, or my job, or my clothes, or the way I decorated our house, or my family, or literally anything about me. He opened his mouth, then closed it. We both knew he couldn't. I thought this cruise would be my chance to prove something, I said quietly, to show her that I'm successful, that I'm valuable, that I deserve respect. But she's right about one thing. I don't belong in your family, not because I'm not good enough, but because you've never made space for me. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm tired, Trevor. I'm tired of fighting for scraps of approval. I'm tired of being the outsider. I'm tired of hoping you'll finally choose me over her. I do choose you. Then prove it, right now. Go tell your mother that if I leave this ship, you leave with me. Tell her that she can have her precious family reunion without me, but it will also be without you. Tell her that you're my husband first, and her son second. He stared at me, the moonlight catching the conflict in his eyes. Elena, you're asking me to blow up my entire family. I'm asking you to act like you're married to me. The silence stretched between us. Behind him, I could see the lights from the upper decks, hear the faint sounds of laughter and music. Diane was probably up there right now, celebrating her victory, confident that I'd be gone by morning. I can't, Trevor whispered. She's my mother. I can't just... Then we're done. The words came out before I'd fully processed them, but the moment I said them, I knew they were true. I'd been done for a while now, probably since the moment he'd loaded his suitcase into the car without fighting for me to come along. You don't mean that? I do. I'm done being your wife in name only. I'm done competing with your mother for your loyalty. I'm done pretending that this marriage works. Elena, please, we can figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. You made your choice. You've been making it for 8 years. I walked away before he could respond, before I could see the hurt in his face and let it weaken my resolve. I'd made my decision. I wasn't leaving the ship. Back in the owner's suite, I opened my laptop and began compiling evidence. Every email with Rodriguez, every document I'd worked on, every timestamp, every phone record, every piece of proof that my invitation to this cruise was legitimate and earned. If corporate wanted an investigation, I'd give them one, and I'd make sure everyone involved understood that the complaint against me was nothing more than a vengeful mother-in-law's attempt to control her son's marriage. I worked through the night building my case with the same precision I'd used in the Henderson liability case. By dawn, I had a 40-page document with exhibits, witness statements from colleagues who could verify my timeline, and a detailed accounting of every interaction with the cruise line. At 7 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Rodriguez, Chen, and Lawson standing in the corridor. Ms. Martinez, Chen said formally, have you made your decision? I handed him a USB drive. This is complete documentation of my work on the Henderson case, including the timeline of how I was invited to this cruise. You'll find that every claim made in the complaint against me is false. I have witnesses who can corroborate my professional relationship with Captain Rodriguez predating my knowledge of my family's travel plans. Chen took the drive slowly. So, you're staying. I'm staying. And if you choose to proceed with removing me, I'll file a counter-complaint for hostile work environment and retaliation. I'll also be happy to discuss with any media outlet how your company handles legitimate complaints versus personal vendettas. Lawson's eyebrows rose. That's quite a threat. It's not a threat. It's a statement of fact. I was invited here professionally, have done nothing wrong, and I won't be bullied off this ship by someone who simply doesn't like me. Rodriguez was trying not to smile. Chen looked uncomfortable. We'll review your documentation, Chen said finally. In the meantime, you're free to remain on board. We'll be speaking with the complainant as well. I'm sure that will be an interesting conversation. They left. I showered, changed into a sundress, and went to breakfast in the captain's dining room. Through the windows, I could see Cozumel approaching. The ship was preparing to dock. Rodriguez joined me halfway through my coffee. That was quite a performance this morning. It wasn't a performance. I'm not leaving. I can see that. For what it's worth, I'm glad. Your work has been invaluable, and I'd hate to see it ended because of family drama. Have they talked to Diane yet? They were heading to her suite when I left. I imagine that's going to be a challenging conversation. An hour later, I was sunbathing on the private deck attached to the owner's suite when my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Martinez, this is Thomas Chen. We've completed our preliminary review. That was fast. The evidence you provided was quite comprehensive. We've also spoken with Mrs. Diane Martinez. Her complaint has been withdrawn. I sat up. Withdrawn? After reviewing the facts, she acknowledged her concerns were personal rather than professional. She's agreed to cease any further action regarding your presence on the ship. Just like that? Well, there may have been some persuasion involved. Captain Rodriguez made it very clear that any attempt to damage your reputation would result in immediate legal action. And I believe your husband had a conversation with his mother as well. Trevor. He'd actually done it. Thank you for informing me, I said carefully. One more thing. The owner's suite is yours for the duration of the cruise, Captain Rodriguez insisted. He feels terrible about the situation and wants to ensure you're comfortable. After Chen hung up, I sat staring at the ocean. I'd won. Diane had backed down. The complaint was dropped. I could stay. But the victory felt hollow. 20 minutes later, Trevor appeared at my door. He looked like he hadn't slept. Can we talk? I let him in. He stood awkwardly in the middle of the suite, taking in the luxury accommodations his mother had wanted. I told her, he said without preamble. I told Mom that if you left, I was leaving with you, that I was done letting her treat you like you don't matter. What did she say? She tried the usual manipulation. Tears, accusations that I was choosing you over family, threats that she'd never forgive me. I told her that you are my family, that you've been my family for 8 years, and it was past time I acted like it. I wanted to feel relief, vindication, joy. Instead, I just felt tired. That must have been hard for you. It should have happened years ago. You were right last night. I've been a coward. I've let her dictate our marriage because it was easier than standing up to her. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm really, truly sorry. Trevor, I know it might be too late. I know I've damaged things between us, maybe beyond repair, but I want to try. I want to be the husband you deserve, not the son my mother expects me to be. I looked at him, at the genuine remorse in his face, the exhaustion from what must have been an epic confrontation with Diane. Part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me wanted to accept his apology and move forward. But another part of me, the part that had spent 8 years trying to be good enough, wasn't ready to let go of the anger yet. I appreciate you standing up to her, I said slowly. I really do. But one conversation doesn't erase 8 years of choosing her over me. I know. I'm not asking you to forget everything. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that things can be different. How? How do I trust that the next time she criticizes me or demands something or makes me feel small, you won't just fall back into old patterns? Because I finally understand what I've been doing. Seeing you last night, hearing what you've been dealing with from corporate, watching Mom try to destroy your career just to get back at you, it made me see how toxic this has been. I can't unsee it now. Trevor, I asked for a divorce last night. I know, and I would deserve it. But I'm asking you to give me this week, this cruise. Let me show you that I can be different. And if at the end of it you still want to end things, I won't fight you. I studied his face, trying to gauge his sincerity. What did Diane say when you defended me? She said I was throwing away my family for someone who wasn't worth it. I told her that you're worth more than she'll ever understand. Then I walked out. You walked out? I'm staying in a regular cabin for the rest of the cruise, paid for it myself. I told Mom and Dad that until they can treat you with respect, I don't want to be around them. This was more than I'd expected, more than I'd dared to hope for. That's a big step. It's overdue. Elena, I love you. I know I've done a terrible job of showing it, but I do. You're brilliant and kind and patient, and you've put up with things from my family that no one should have to tolerate. I want the chance to prove that I see that now. 1 week, I said finally. We have 1 week on this cruise. You show me that you mean what you're saying, that this isn't just guilt or embarrassment, and we'll talk about where we go from here. Thank you. He moved to hug me, then stopped. Can I? I nodded, and he wrapped his arms around me. We stood there for a long moment, the ship rocking gently beneath us. There's one more thing, Trevor said when we separated. Captain Rodriguez invited both of us to dinner tonight in his private dining room. He wants to apologize for the situation and, I think, make a statement to the rest of the passengers about your role on the ship. Both of us? He specifically requested that I be there. I think he wants everyone to see that we're together, that you're not just some random consultant, but someone with family connections who's here legitimately. Your mother will love that. My mother is going to have to get used to a lot of things. That evening, I dressed carefully in a navy dress that Trevor had always said he loved. We walked to the captain's dining room together, his hand firm in mine. Through the windows, I could see the main dining hall where the rest of the passengers were eating. Diane was at her table, surrounded by Trevor's siblings and their spouses. She looked up as we passed, her face contorted with barely suppressed rage. Trevor squeezed my hand and kept walking. Captain Rodriguez greeted us warmly, along with his first officer and chief of staff. The dinner was elaborate, 7 courses with wine pairings, each dish more exquisite than the last. Rodriguez spent most of the meal praising my work on the Henderson case, making sure everyone at the table understood the complexity of what I'd accomplished. Without Elena's expertise, he said, raising his glass, we'd be facing a legal nightmare. Her knowledge of maritime law, her attention to detail, her ability to navigate international regulations, she saved us millions and protected our reputation. I'm honored to have her aboard. Trevor looked at me with something like pride, or maybe it was awe. It occurred to me that he'd never really understood what I did for work, never asked detailed questions about my cases or accomplishments. He knew I was a lawyer, but he'd never seen me in my element. Never witnessed other people respecting my expertise the way Rodriguez clearly did. After dinner, we walked the deck. The ship was cutting through calm waters, stars brilliant overhead. Trevor pulled me close. I had no idea, he said quietly, about the scope of what you do. The Henderson case, the complexity of it. Rodriguez talks about you like you're the only person who could have handled it. He's being generous. No, he's not. I've spent our entire marriage taking your career for granted, treating it like a hobby instead of the serious work it is. You're not just a lawyer, you're exceptional at what you do. It took you 8 years to notice? It took me 8 years to pay attention. That's on me. We stood at the railing watching the water. Behind us, I could hear other passengers moving about, laughter and conversation drifting on the breeze. Elena! A voice called. Trevor's sister, Cassidy, was approaching with her husband, Robert. Unlike Diane, Cassidy had always been pleasant to me, if somewhat distant. I just wanted to apologize, Cassidy said when she reached us, for how Mom has treated you, for all of us letting it happen. That dinner tonight, hearing Captain Rodriguez talk about your work, it made me realize how little I've respected what you do, how much we've all let Mom's attitude influence how we see you. You don't need to apologize for Diane, I said. Yes, I do. We all do. She's our mother, but that doesn't make her behavior okay. Robert and I were talking, and we want you to know that whatever happens between you and Mom, you're still our sister. You've always been kind to our kids, always remembered birthdays, always shown up for family stuff even when you weren't wanted. That matters. I felt unexpected tears prick my eyes. Thank you. After Cassidy and Robert left, Trevor and I continued our walk. That was something, he said. Cassidy standing up to Mom's worldview. Maybe things really are changing. Maybe, Over the next few days, I threw myself into enjoying the cruise. I worked on the Henderson case in the mornings, making progress on the final documents Rodriguez needed. In the afternoons, I explored each port with Trevor. We went snorkeling in Grand Cayman, hiked through rainforests in Jamaica, wandered through colorful markets in Honduras, and slowly, carefully, we started talking, really talking, in ways we hadn't in years. I think I was scared. Trevor admitted one night after we'd returned from a sunset catamaran tour of making Mom mad, yes, but also of what it would mean if I admitted she was wrong about you. If I acknowledged how poorly she'd treated you, I'd have to face my own role in allowing it. It was easier to minimize things, to convince myself you were overreacting or being sensitive. I wasn't overreacting. I know that now. The complaint she filed, trying to get you removed from the ship, that was insane, Elena, and it made me see all the smaller ways she's tried to push you out over the years. The passive-aggressive comments, the exclusions, the constant criticism. I told myself it was just her personality, that she'd be like that with anyone I married. But that wasn't true. She was specifically targeting you because she couldn't control you. She wanted you to marry Brittany, I said. Brittany had been Diane's choice, a woman from their social circle who would have been the perfect, compliant daughter-in-law. She did. And when I chose you instead, she saw it as rebellion. She spent 8 years trying to make you fail, to prove she was right that you weren't suitable. But you let her. I let her, he agreed, and I hate myself for it. We were sitting on the balcony of the owner's suite, sharing a bottle of wine. The ocean stretched endlessly before us, dark and mysterious. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly. Not right away, maybe not ever completely. I understand, but I'm willing to try, to see if we can build something better than what we had. That's all I'm asking for. On the 5th day of the cruise, Diane finally confronted me directly. I was reading by the pool when her shadow fell across my chair. You've made quite a spectacle of yourself, she said without preamble. I looked up, putting my book aside. Hello, Diane. Don't pretend this is a friendly visit. You've turned my son against me. I haven't turned Trevor against anyone. I've simply asked him to choose whether he's married to me or to you. Her face flushed. How dare you? How dare I what? Expect basic respect from my husband? Ask him to stand up for me when you insult me. Want to feel like I belong in the family I married into? You don't belong. You never did. Trevor deserves someone from our world, someone who understood our values, our traditions. You mean someone you could control? I mean someone suitable. People around the pool were starting to stare. I stood up, gathering my things. This conversation is over. It's not over until I say it's over. You're not going to waltz onto this ship and destroy my family. I'm not destroying anything. You did that yourself when you tried to have me removed, when you filed a false complaint, when you spent 8 years making it clear that I'm not good enough for your son. Because you're not. Actually, a new voice said, she is. We both turned. Trevor's father, Harold, stood behind us. I'd barely spoken to him during the cruise. He usually let Diane dominate family interactions, content to fade into the background. Harold, Diane started, this doesn't concern... It absolutely concerns me. I've watched you bully this woman for nearly a decade, and I'm done pretending I don't see it. Bully? You've criticized everything about her. Her career, her appearance, her family, her cooking, the way she decorates their home. You've excluded her from events, made snide comments, and generally made her feel unwelcome. And I've let it happen because it was easier than dealing with your temper. Diane looked genuinely shocked. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side of basic decency. Elena is Trevor's wife. She's been part of this family for 8 years. She's been nothing but respectful and kind, even when you've been cruel. She organized your birthday party last year, for God's sake. Do you know how many hours she spent on that? And you didn't even thank her? You filed a complaint to have her thrown off this ship to damage her career because you can't handle that she's here. That's not a mother protecting her son. That's just vindictive. How can you say that to me? Because it's true. And because I'm tired, Diane. I'm tired of your need to control everything. I'm tired of pretending your behavior is normal. I'm tired of watching our children tiptoe around you. Diane's hands were shaking. If that's how you feel, then maybe you should leave too. Maybe I should. But first, I'm going to say this. Elena, I apologize for not speaking up sooner, for letting my wife treat you the way she has. You deserved better from this family, and I'm sorry you didn't get it." He walked away, leaving Diane and me staring at each other. "Well," she said finally, her voice icy, "I suppose you've won. You've turned my husband and son against me. Congratulations." "I didn't turn anyone against you. I just stopped accepting unacceptable behavior. If that feels like an attack, maybe you should examine why." She left without another word. I sat back down, my hands trembling from the adrenaline. Harold's intervention had been unexpected, and it meant more than I could easily express. Trevor found me an hour later. "Dad told me what happened. Are you okay?" "I think so. I didn't expect him to say anything." "Neither did I, but I'm glad he did. Mom needs to hear it from someone other than me. She can dismiss what I say as you manipulating me. She can't dismiss Dad." "Do you think she'll change?" "Honestly, probably not. But maybe she'll at least learn to keep her opinions to herself around you." "That would be progress." That night, Rodriguez hosted a farewell dinner for me, Trevor, and a few other key personnel. We'd completed the final Henderson documents that afternoon. The case was ready to move forward with the cruise line in a much stronger legal position. "I can't thank you enough," Rodriguez said, raising his glass. "This case could have bankrupted us. Your work saved not just the company, but the jobs of everyone who works here." "I'm just glad I could help." "I hope this won't be our last collaboration. We have other cases where your expertise would be invaluable." After dinner, Trevor and I returned to the owner's suite, our last night on the ship. Tomorrow we'd dock in Miami, and real life would resume. "What happens when we get home?" Trevor asked as we stood on the balcony. "I don't know yet. We'll figure it out day by day, I guess." "I meant what I said about being different, about putting you first. I know you did, and I'm going to hold you to it." "Good." The next morning, we disembarked together. Diane and Harold had already left, taking separate cars back to their house. Cassidy hugged me goodbye, whispering, "Thank you for not giving up on this family." The drive home was quiet. Trevor held my hand the whole way, neither of us quite sure what came next. When we pulled into our driveway, I saw something on the front door, a package. Trevor grabbed it while I unlocked the door. Inside was a handwritten note from Harold. "Elena, I know this doesn't fix 8 years of silence, but I wanted you to know that what I said at the pool wasn't just words. Diane and I are going to counseling. Whether she changes or not remains to be seen, but I'm done enabling her behavior. You're family, and you deserve to be treated as such. Harold." I showed the note to Trevor. He read it twice, then set it down carefully. "Okay," he said. "Okay, this is really happening. Things are really changing." Maybe. Over the next few weeks, Trevor proved he meant what he'd said. When Diane called to criticize how we'd handled the cruise situation, he told her firmly that the topic was closed. When she tried to invite him to Sunday dinner without mentioning me, he declined and said he'd only come if I was included. When she made a snide comment about my job during a phone call, he hung up. It wasn't perfect. He still struggled sometimes with setting boundaries, but he was trying, genuinely trying, in ways he never had before. Harold kept his word, too. He and Diane started attending therapy. I didn't expect Diane to transform overnight, or possibly ever, but at least Harold was no longer pretending her behavior was acceptable. 3 months after the cruise, Rodriguez called with another case, a complex liability issue involving international waters and multiple jurisdictions. He wanted me to lead the legal team. "There's a small complication," he said. "Part of the research will need to be done on site, on another cruise." I laughed. "Seriously?" "Seriously, but I promise no family drama this time. Just you, me, and a team of maritime lawyers talking about fascinating legal precedents." "When do we leave?" This time, when Trevor learned about the cruise, his response was different. "That's amazing, Elena. You should definitely go." "You're not going to miss me?" "Of course I'll miss you, but this is your career. Your work is important. I'm not going to make you feel guilty for doing your job." It was such a simple thing, basic spousal support, but it meant everything. I kissed him, feeling something shift between us. Maybe we really could build something better. The night before I left for the new cruise, we hosted dinner at our house. Cassidy and Robert came, along with Trevor's brother Nathan and his wife Amy. Harold came alone. Diane had been invited but declined. She's struggling, Harold admitted, with the changes, with having to face her behavior. The therapist says it's normal, that people often resist most when they're closest to breakthrough. I'm not holding my breath, I said honestly. That's probably wise, but I want you to know, whether she comes around or not, you have my support, and Trevor's and Cassidy's, Nathan's, everyone here. You're part of this family, whether Diane accepts it or not. It wasn't the happy ending I'd imagined all those years ago when I married Trevor. It wasn't complete acceptance, wasn't the warm embrace of a loving mother-in-law, but it was real. It was honest, and it was enough. The day I left for the new cruise, Trevor drove me to the airport. At the terminal, he pulled me close. "Come back to me," he said. "Always." "I mean it, Elena. You were right about everything. About me not fighting for you, about letting Mom control too much, about all of it. But I'm different now. We're different. And when you come back, I want us to start planning our future. Not the future my parents want. Not the life we've been sleepwalking through, our future." I'd like that. I kissed him goodbye and walked towards security. Before I went through, I turned back. He was still there, watching, making sure I got through safely. It was such a small thing, but it was also everything. On the plane, I thought about the past 3 months, about the cruise where everything had changed, about standing in that dining hall, watching Diane's face when she realized I'd outmaneuvered her, about Trevor finally standing up for me, about Harold speaking up, about building something real out of the wreckage of 8 years of trying to be good enough. I pulled out my laptop and opened my work files for the new case. Maritime law was complex, challenging, endlessly fascinating. I'd built my career on being the best at what I did, on being the person clients called when things got complicated. But this time, I was doing it for myself, not to prove anything to Diane, not to earn anyone's approval, just because I loved my work and was damn good at it. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. "Already missing you. Go be brilliant." I smiled and put the phone away. Then I opened the case files and got to work. Because here's what I'd learned on that cruise. You can't control whether people accept you. You can't force respect or demand approval. But you can insist on being treated with dignity. You can refuse to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's expectations. You can build a life that's true to who you are, regardless of whether others validate it. And if you're lucky, really lucky, the people who matter will eventually see you for who you are. They'll stand up for you. They'll fight beside you. They'll choose you over and over, in all the ways that count. I'd spent 8 years trying to earn a place in Trevor's family. In the end, I'd had to claim it myself, stand in that spotlight, own my accomplishments, refuse to be diminished. Diane would probably never truly accept me. That was her loss, not mine. But Trevor was learning. Harold was trying. The family was shifting slowly towards something healthier. And me? I was done chasing approval, done trying to prove I was good enough. I knew my worth now. I'd shown it on that ship, in that dining hall, in the work I'd done, and the way I'd refused to back down. I'd watched Diane's face as the captain introduced me as his very important person guest, watched her realize that all her efforts to exclude me had failed, that I'd succeeded despite her, because of my own skills and reputation and hard work. That moment, that single moment of recognition, had been worth 8 years of struggle. Not because I'd beaten her, not because I'd won some petty family power play, but because I'd finally completely understood that I didn't need her validation, that I never had. I was Elena Martinez, maritime lawyer, expert witness, legal consultant, wife, sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, complex human being with my own worth, my own life, my own right to respect. And no one, not Diane or anyone else, could take that away from me. The plane lifted off, carrying me toward new challenges, new cases, new opportunities to prove my expertise. Below, the city fell away, becoming tiny lights in the darkness. Somewhere down there, Trevor was driving home to the life we were building together. A life based on honesty, respect, partnership, not perfect, but real. And somewhere, Diane was probably still furious, still convinced she was right, still unable to see what she'd lost by refusing to accept me. That was okay. I'd learned the most important lesson that cruise had taught me. Some battles you win by fighting, others you win by refusing to fight at all, by simply existing in your own power, claiming your own space, insisting on your own worth. I'd been banned from that family reunion cruise, but I'd shown up anyway, not as an interloper or an outsider, but as exactly who I was, successful, capable, valued. And in doing so, I'd changed everything. Not just my relationship with Trevor or his family's perception of me, but my own understanding of myself, my own willingness to accept less than I deserved. I'd watched Diane's face as the captain introduced me as his very important person guest, watched years of rejection and dismissal crumble in a single moment of recognition. And I'd smiled, not vindictively, not triumphantly, just peacefully. Because I'd finally learned what I should have known all along. I didn't need her approval to matter. I'd always mattered. I just needed to believe it myself.